Hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on that classic wooden motocruiser here in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing it and others up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. This week, I'm so pleased I'm actually going to get some real work done heading up to Genoa Bay, and that's thanks to the generosity of someone you all know and love. And as I said, this week I am very fortunate because Lady Zephyrus has been kind enough to lend me her car for a couple of days so I can run up to Genoa and get some real work done. Okay, let's go. And back in the shed. It's so great to check up on Geordie, and she's doing just fine, which is great. Okay, cleaned up a little bit, got the bench all ready. We're going to get started with this project of the bench for MV Zephyrus. Okay, so the bench is basically a big box that's going to have a sloped bench on it and a sloped back. Now, it's not going to be one of these dine, recline, adjustable things that I've done on Poem and will do on Geordie. Lady Zephyrus just wants something that's sort of suitable for dining, but a little more comfortable, so we're going to compromise a little bit on the angles. It's a long bench, and it's going to have a big slide-out drawer coming out the end of it, which will actually be accessible from the galley. Anyway, you'll see it when we put it all together, but basically it's just a big box with another box inside that can slide out. And I'm going to make the bulk of the box out of marine grade plywood because it's so stable and so flat and strong. Only where we see it is it going to be the Sapelli plywood, which is good, but it's not quite as good as marine ply. Anyway, do some ripping, do some gluing. We're going to get there. So as usual, building big boxes for me is a glue up, largely relying on PL construction adhesive and tacking it together with the tiny little 23 gauge pin nailer, and then following up with some wood screws afterwards. Certainly helps once there's a couple of pieces already put together. From my erroneous lack of cutting that off, you'll notice that this doesn't seem to fit. Well, that's because this is 1.5 inches lower. This is the back edge of the seat. The back would be here, and so there's a bit of a slope here. And it's just much simpler for me to glue this all up and then just connect the dots here and cut that off afterwards. What I've done for the glue up is I've actually just cut a matching piece for the other side here, and I'm just going to slide this in here and put a clamp on it just so that it stays square overnight while it's drying, and we won't have any issues with that holding together happily. Excellent. So this is ready to dry overnight, and we'll pick this up in the morning. And good morning. Well, this is nicely set up now, and I'm going to trim off this sort of, it's also glued to the bench. Should have considered that. Yeah, pretty well glued to the bench. If this is a testament to construction adhesive, it usually removes the wood rather than the glue. Anyway, so there'll be a little tidying up to do there. Sorry, bench. All right, so I have a few trims to make on this. First of which is to take off this extra piece here. I never remembered to cut when I was putting this thing together. And the other cut is connecting the dots on the far end here where I have a slope, and that's pretty straightforward. I just draw a line and cut it. Okay, so I'm going to put this box away for a few minutes while I start on the inner box, which is actually the drawer. Where? And it's time for the glue up. Now, it's critical that the work surface you're working on when you do a glue up for a box like this is really flat, because of course if it's slightly skewed, well, you're going to make a slightly skewed box, which will be troublesome. So just verifying that there aren't any major problems. What we have here is a nice big split of wood coming out of here, where basically I pulled up a bunch of the bench by gluing yesterday's box to it. Anyway, where was that? Right here. Just leveling it up just a bit. Now there's one more cut I have to make, and that's because this plywood is thought of as half-inch plywood, but it's actually metric. So when I need to cut down the end piece, it's not exactly half an inch. And besides, plus the cumulative error of all my cuts, what I like to do when I'm doing this is just slap this together here, slap that on there, and then cut this off in the table saw. And I can do that in a series of successive cuts because it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. I just keep trimming till it's about right. And that's good enough for me. And as before, we'll start with the ends. So while I'm waiting for the drawer to dry, I can tidy up the main box here and put some screws in it. Actually, to expedite this a little bit, I'm actually going to screw this together before it's fully cured. It should be fine. Alright then, so no doubt you're wondering what I'm going to do about a drawer slide. I did consider one of those sets of heavy-duty, long drawer slides that would come out, you know, the bulk of this distance. Now, to be fair, we can't regularly open this drawer the 41 inches that this is, because actually this is the companionway leading to the aft cabin, and well, there's a desk right there. So sometimes it can be opened all the way, but generally it's going to be opened a little less, and you'll have to reach in for the last few things. Anyway, so the full extension slidey glidey thing just seemed like overkill, and they get ridiculously expensive at that point. So enter the high density polyethylene, HDPE, and I've used this before if you watched recently for the sliding window on MV Zephyrus. This is very, very slippery against wood, very, and I'm going to make some small little guides in the bottom corner, as well as a couple for the top, which I'll explain why we need those in a little bit. So I just need to rip these into a couple of small strips that I can then cut some dados in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a 1/2 by 1/2 inch rabbet out of here, leaving an L-shaped piece, which is a 1/4 inch by a 1/4 inch, and that's where the drawer will sit in the bottom and also be guided sideways. So here we go. So basically, I need to leave a 1/4. Always remember your handy dandy 1/4 of an inch gauge is sitting in your pocket all the time. Just wind that down a bit, right about there, and in this direction we're going to leave a 1/4. Okay, so roughly a 1/4 by a 1/4, a little bit of overshot, but there's no harm in that. Better that than undershot. Okay, so that'll go there, and this will go here. And I haven't tried to fit this yet myself, so we'll all find out together if this fits. So slidey glidey. I just love it. Okay, so now comes in the last two pieces, and what are they for, Peter? Well, if you pull a drawer out, you're probably familiar with the point at which you reach about halfway and suddenly the drawer collapses on you. So what I'm going to do, these are going to go here as little limiters on it falling down on the outside, and that's pretty fundamental, not much to that. Okie doke. Man, I love that. Okay. All right, so I put a little ramp on the leading edge of these upper guides so that when they're in place and you're putting the drawer in, they can be driven down into place. Now, if I put these all the way at the front, it means they'll be effective for almost full extension, but it'll have less mechanical advantage against it. In a way, I wish I'd had longer ones. But if I bring it back a little bit more, I get a little more mechanical advantage, and by the time the back of the drawer was here, you're removing the drawer anyway. I mean, I might even come, let's just use an arbitrary marker of that. There we go. And on the other side with my arbitrary marker of that. Very nice, very nice. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Love it. Okay, so it's time to put the seat base on, and I'm not going to glue it. It's just going to be a screwed connection in case I ever have to service it somehow. So I'm just going to put this little spacer in that I had in here while I was building it to assure that I have my correct spacing across here. Okay. Easy peasy. Then. So, this of course is the seat base that's facing forward. Now it needs a seat back at an angle. Now this is going to be built in right against the bulkhead in the wheelhouse. So I'm going to actually use the bulkhead to support the top edge of the back piece that goes on here. So what I need to do is sort of temporarily simulate that bulkhead with a piece of plywood here so I could build this. Yeah, I think you see where I'm going. And here we go. This is just about perfect. It is going to make this thing a bit unwieldy for the next little while, but that's the nature of this. And there we go, instant bulkhead. So now, yeah, something, yeah. All right, so this piece goes in here to act as a ledger for the back, which goes in like this. Now, I want this to be a little bit tidier, so I'm going to actually rip a big fat bevel off the top edge of this, just leaving about 1/8 of an inch of the top veneer so that sits pretty flush against the bulkhead. And down here I'm going to completely ignore these little offsets of angles because they're so tiny it's not worth playing with. There we go. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so now for some beautification, and first off I got to put a trim piece on the front edge of this plywood. Pretty straightforward. I very rarely use one of these things, but every once in a while it just seems that it might be handy. Sort of almost, I don't know, maybe. It's just the chop saw is nowhere nearby. There we go. Okay, so here I'm going to use wood glue, and you might say, well, Peter, why wood glue here and construction adhesive everywhere else? Well, because it doesn't need to be as strong, and it's much easier to clean up, and it is actually dries quite a bit quicker. Well, I'm very sad to say my pin nailer has packed it in. The drive pin won't retract anymore. I've cleaned it and taken it apart. I haven't taken the piston part out yet, but I don't have any spares or resources for this, so yeah, that's a little bit annoying. All right, well, it does mean finishing up this project is going to be a little bit complicated, but we'll see what we can do. Beauty. This aside to dry. That should be just fine. Check on you in the morning. And good morning. So let's see how this little glue up fared. It should be just fine, right? Nice. Awesome. Right then, so I added one more guide here in the front, just in case in time, if there's a lot of weight in the drawer, I don't want it dragging against the outside of the frame here. Okay, so let's do this. Final fit. And it glides really nicely. I'm very happy with that. Okay, so now time to add some trim on the door. Or drawer to make it match. Nice. Okay then. Now incidentally folks, with rail and style panels or rail and style anything, it may seem obvious, but the verticals are always full length and the horizontals are what's set inside. Rail and style, think a fence. The style is the vertical part of a fence, therefore the post, and it sticks all the way in the ground, and the rails are the horizontal parts which affix to them. Okay, here we go. Very nice. Very nice. And on to sanding. Oh, what a great joy. And a pretty reasonable reveal all the way around. I'm happy with that. Oh, I may not have mentioned, to limit the stop, I just put a little block on the backside that hits against the back, and that set it up just perfect. Okay, de-dust and tongue oil. And we're off. Now the inside of the drawer is actually going to get polyurethane later on. There's no sense tongue oiling all of that, and it'll make a much better preservative. But I just want to make sure I got everything around the edge done, and now I can finish up all this. Yeah, okay. Okay. And fully installed. So pleased with this beautiful big drawer. Fantastic. Okay. Well, hello there and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. Coming to you this week from the cozy wheelhouse of MV Pome in beautiful downtown Victoria, British Columbia. Let's get straight to the beer because it's super interesting. There's only one phrase on this entire bottle that I can read, and it's at the top, the classic smoke beer. If there's any chance this is a smoky beer, I'm absolutely in love with it. Anyway, I've been seeing this beer sitting in the corner of my beer department of my liquor store for the last little while, and I thought, you know what? I'm drinking all these local IPAs. Let's just grab whatever this is and see what I think of it. Cheers. It's smoky. Oh, it's smoky like a peated scotch. Okay, I'm going to show that to you again. And some of you may be familiar with it. I don't know. Wow, that is a very interesting beer, and I'm going to keep a few of these around. I say it's like a peated scotch, but it's not like a cask beer. It's a nice, warm, caramel-rich beer that's smoked like salmon would be smoked. Anyway, that's really fantastic. I love it. Okay, let's get on with the paperwork. Last week's winner, actually last Wednesday's winner of a Travels with Geordie t-shirt is John Jensen Artist. So John, get a hold of me and you've won yourself a Travels with Geordie t-shirt. Congratulations. I have to say, I am so grateful this week for all kinds of reasons. See where this is going? Anyway, so grateful that Lady Zephyrus lent me her car so I could run up to Genoa Bay and get some work done, which felt so good because of that extended gratitude of being able to stay aboard Geordie again. And it's been a long time. It's been a month or more since I've even seen the boat, and she's fine. Everything is great. And it really was lovely to stay aboard for a few nights and cook a meal and a full galley. Oh my gosh, it was very pleasant. And getting back into that rhythm of working up in Genoa over the winter, which is going to be quite extensive. There's something else I'm grateful for, and I alluded to it briefly in the last episode, and that's that it looks like a very kind individual is going to lend me a car for a little while I figure out what I'm doing next. Now, it hasn't been concluded yet, but it's all looking very promising, and I'll know more about it by the time I talk to you again. So I'm very grateful for that, and that's working out really well. So cheers to that individual and to all of you, and to the word of the week, which I'm sure you saw coming, is indeed grateful. And yes, I use it a lot, but I'm grateful a lot. See you next week. I'm grateful for that. It would have been perfect if I hadn't dropped it onto the blade while I was showing it to you. So I made another one.